brother is a triathlete. And if anybody knows what that is, that kind of race is a lot of work. But not only is he a triathlete, he coaches triathletes, and in his spare time he coaches a soccer team. But, not that he's busy, but he's got a lot of wisdom when it comes to working with athletes. He says that if you can't get your body, let me see, but I have to quote him. If you can get your body to its most fitness, highest fitness, but if you can't imagine it, if you don't envision it or see it, you won't succeed in your sport. And that's true. A lot of athletes, you see them before they go off on a race or whatever they're doing, you might see them sitting with headphones on and they're envisioning what they are going to be doing in their sport. So in essence, it means, and I think it applies to life, if you can visualize it, if you can picture it, then you can do it. And that's why I think that the holy concept of peace is not just a dream. It just takes a lot of work, and it's mental and it's physical. We hear John the Baptist, who talks of one who's coming and will have certain powers. We hear from the prophet Isaiah, who speaks of new life arising out of destruction. That new life is a promised ruler who will be so charismatic that the world he brings is so good that the animal kingdom is transformed. And so, ironically, and maybe fittingly, this leader who comes, he comes in humility and in weakness. And he's so great that he upends the natural order of the strong eating the weak. And that humility is what proves stronger than the military might of any empire. It was Jesus who ignored the empire of the Romans and instead focused on the sick and the marginalized and the broken. For them and for us. He offered his power of healing and wisdom and mercy. But he also taught us how to live in such a way that all are included and all are cared for. And that possibility that all people may live in unity. I had mentioned Walter Brueggemann last week, and he wrote about Isaiah, so I'm probably going to quote him a lot during this Advent season, but he wrote that Jesus was received and he was celebrated, but then he was eventually crucified precisely for his embodiment and practice of this vision of a social possibility that we could live in unity. And yet, there still seems to be no peace. When we look at the history of Israel, they were beset by the Assyrians in the 6th century, and then they were put into captivity and exiled by the Babylonians in the 8th century. That's 200-300 years of being attacked by other countries. When we think of them, we get a glimpse of how they would cling onto this wonderful view of Isaiah, of a new Eden, of a world transformed. And when we look at the history of the world, we see nation against nation still. And we look at our economy and our politics and the climate, and we face the new year, and we're just as uncertain as ever. And we wonder, how can peace, Isaiah's vision of peace, God's peace, ever truly be? And once again, I look to Walter Brueggemann, who has studied the Old Testament for all of his adult life. And even he couldn't see this sort of thing coming to being. He said this ideal is not possible precisely because it just doesn't happen in the world. It's abnormal. So he couldn't envision peace any more than we can. But then he kept wrestling. with this idea because it was in the scriptures. It was foretold. He kept wrestling, and when he finished wrestling, he came out with a book that is called Peace. And he says that in the eyes of the Creator, normal means peace and unity and healing. The strife and the discord and the suffering that surround us are the real abnormalities of life. But sadly, we've come to expect and even tolerate that this is just how things are. But I think this Advent denies us that sort of dark outlook. The promises are spoken of a new world about to be given. They're pointing us in the direction of God's vision for our world, which means we have to take the leap of faith and trust ourselves to it, to that vision, and somehow live into the work of peace. Yes, there is much to worry about in our world and in our lives. Yet God continues to break in and speak hope in our communities. God continues to call us to be about healing and not division. And we do this by simply taking little steps forward and not allow ourselves to be immobilized by what we see as difficult or even impossible. And maybe this story of Alfred Delp will inspire you as it does me. You may know it as me. Alfred Delp was a Jesuit priest, and near the end of World War II, he was executed on false charges connected with the plot to kill Adolf Hitler. He did participate in the resistance movement against Hitler and was imprisoned for it. But when he was in prison, he wrote, and his writings from that terrible experience in the Nazi prisons survived. And this is one of the things he wrote about Advent. Advent is a time of promise. It is not yet the time of fulfillment. We're still in the midst of everything. And we're in the logical inexorability and relentlessness of destiny. Space is still filled with the noise of destruction and annihilation, the shouts of self-assurance and arrogance, the weeping of despair and helplessness. But around the horizon, the eternal realities stand silent in their age-old longing. There shines on them already a mild first light of the radiant fulfillments to come. From afar, listen for the first notes of pipes and voices, not yet discernible, nor the sound of melody. It's far off still. It's only just announced and foretold. But it is happening today. It is happening today. Peace may be a dream for some, but for people of faith, peace is a goal, and it lives inside, even as Christ lives for us.